Yeah, it's funny. You called me Obi-Wan Kenobi. I've been referring to myself as Yoda on set, giving me advice.
Yeah. There are two types of people in this world. Those that hit the brakes and those that hit the gas. The question you have to ask yourself is, which one are you?
Alex Maidy, JoBlo.com. How you two doing today?
Good,
Hey,
man.
dude.
How are you?
Very excited to talk to both of you. This is a really fun series. I really liked watching it. And one question I had for you, Ryan, is when watching films or TV shows where there's a specialty, you watch them like ER and the actors have to spout all of this medical jargon. How
Right.
comfortable were you spouting Carfax and parts and things like that? Did you have to prep for that, or was that just kind of natural for you?
I definitely had to prep for that. And thankfully, we had an incredible team of technical advisors, incredible stunt team, so many drivers, and such a big and robust transportation department on this show.
Yeah.
Because every single day, every single episode, there were new cars coming in and out. Yeah. And to get it for me to look like I knew what I was doing and that I was proficient as a mechanic, I did have to spend the time with the guys, and there was some training that went along with that. And by the end of the season, you do have sort of a base knowledge that you didn't start with. And so I kind of know what I'm doing now, but it took some time to get there.
And Michael, for you, the kind of the course your character takes in learning how to become more comfortable behind the wheel, how much of that experience did you get to actually be behind the wheel driving versus, the creative stuff you see on screen?
First off, I love your room, by the way, dude. It's so
Thank
sick.
you.
I love it. It's super, super cool. So, I did wind up, before we started shooting, I was like, I'm going to go and get my stunt driving certification. So I got both my level 1 and level 2 stunt driving cert. So like, I know how to drive now. And I was really excited to like maybe possibly do some stuff, but like just because of like safety and just because of like something happens, like it delays shooting so much, we decided that like, it'd just be better to just like have a stunt driver do it. I obviously like I still hope for the day that I do get to sit behind the wheel and really like show my stuff. And until then, I'm just gonna keep preparing, keep like doing my driving on the side, and just like keep having my stuff like while I'm not shooting. But then hopefully one day while we're shooting, I'll get to really like show my stuff behind the wheel.
And those sequences are so complex and have so many different moving parts. And Prime Video wanted to make sure that everything was done so safely.
Yep.
Like I said, we have an incredible team responsible for those sequences. But yeah, all of us wanted to do a little more driving than we were able to. But it all works, and it's all such a fun thing to be a part of.
Yeah.
And there's so many shows on various networks and streaming platforms that try to kind of find this balance between the drama and the relationship side of things with something that just gives it something unique. In this series, the driving and the car stuff and all of those subplots really do come together nicely. Ryan, for you, what would you say was your favorite part of this series outside of the car stuff?
Well, speaking initially to the car stuff, there are these towns in Texas that are obsessed with football. This Rust Belt town in Pennsylvania happens to be obsessed with cars and with racing, and it's part of the town's lore. But for me, I think I was really drawn to this sense of family, and each family looking different, and finding your place and what that means to you, the connection that I end up having with my niece and nephew that is almost like a parental dynamic. Yeah, and I think that it's a great summer show for that reason, a great coming of age story about these young people or relocated to a new town and trying to find their way, and all of the interpersonal dynamics that go along with that. And I also love the humor in the show. It's not heavy in every moment, and there's very heartwarming moments as well. So it's very multifaceted that way.
Yeah, I feel like honestly the characters are so layered and so relatable, and like even though they are unique, like I feel like everyone kind of knows people like that, these people that are maybe a little bit more hard-headed, or a little bit more go with the flow, or a little bit more experienced in life, and a little bit more of like a mentor. Like everyone has these types of people in their life, at least most people do. And I think that is like the emotional through line of the show is not even necessarily the cars and the racing, but it's the people that kind of like are inhabit this world is the through line and makes it interesting to watch.
And there's this element of mystery.
Yeah.
You know, Zach and Caitlin are trying to figure out who their father was and where he went.
Yeah.
You know, my character clearly has a past that he's keeping hidden that we sort of get glimpses into as the season unfolds. So it's got a lot of different elements.
And I think that the balance of all of that is really interesting. And Michael, you mentioned the idea of the mentorship element that's going on here. And I think that 25 years ago, Ryan would have probably been playing the role that you're playing here. Did you kind of look to him for that kind of Obi-Wan Kenobi mentorship on how to play this character, or did you kind of figure it out on your own?
No, honestly, yeah, I did. Like, I feel like I was always just like, I very much approach the work and like just like in general, like I don't know everything, you know. I'm still very young and like I still want to learn, and like I feel like Ryan had such a wealth of knowledge to offer and was like so willing to offer it, you know. So I'd always just be sitting there and be like, so tell me more. I was very curious about just like what Ryan had to offer, and like, you know, just getting to work with him and like, you know, see his kind of workflow and like how he kind of navigated either like the actual work or the actual industry part about it, or, you know, how to kind of like, you know, there's certain situations that he was like, you know what, actually we should do this, and like understanding his value of his opinion. And like, I think that because of that, I learned how to kind of like bring that into the rest of my work. And like, you know, I think it was just definitely, yeah, like a very similar relationship that Zach had with his uncle, so with Uncle Logan. So it was cool.
Yeah, it's funny. You called me Obi-Wan Kenobi. I've been referring to myself as Yoda on set, giving the advice.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very open about my experiences in the industry and, you know, potential mistakes or different directions that these young people will be offered as their careers grow. And I like being a part of being a sounding board and kind of giving my advice and sharing with them whatever I can that's helpful. At this stage of my life, it's a very comfortable place to be. You know, I'm a father in real life, and so I have a parental feeling towards a lot of the young cast, and we have such a great young cast, really, really incredible actors, all very prepared. The set was just pleasant. It was, and that starts at the top with the showrunner, Johnny Norris, and you know, the tone was set there, and everyone had a great time. We had no real issues.
And Ryan, from a big screen perspective versus small screen, it's probably not even fair to call this a television series anymore. Would you say like the atmosphere and the production values rival some of the big screen projects you've been a part of?
Oh, absolutely. And even exceed some of them. Neil Berger, who directed the first 2 episodes, you know, obviously did Limitless and The Illusionist and Divergent. And so he brought a very cinematic look and feel to the show that I think remains consistent. Mm-hmm. And the size of our production it's bigger than most movies I've done. You know, just our transportation department alone and the amount of different cars we had coming in and out, and the racing team, the stunt team, it felt like a really, really big show.
Dude, yeah. And like everyone was really putting their everything into this, from like everyone from like set deck to costumes to like obviously our transport team. It was so coordinated, and like there's so many moving parts, and everyone was pouring their everything into this. Even our camera department, because all of our whole show is handheld, right? So that means someone is holding this camera on their shoulder for 12, 15, 16 hours a day. And like it was just like our camera team, everyone was so talented and brought so much to the show. And there were so many amazing creative hands on this. And I think that we really got like a really amazing final product because of it. You know what I mean?
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.